we've certainly been wanting to get into the field earlier the past few seasons, and luckily this time we were able to start early for some people. However, not everybody did. We had some warmer temperatures early in the year, which led to warmer soil temperatures, so it got us on out there in the field and got us planting earlier as we got to the tail end of May. Now, some people did not go to the field then. It depends on how many acres you got to plant and what kind of planting power you got, how many acres you can cover and how fast. We all like to plant at the optimum planting time so that we can avoid tomato spotted wilt virus. That's our biggest threat and our biggest danger, our biggest fear is getting hit with that virus. So, we've always said a number of times that usually that second week of May, sometime right in there, end of the first week, second week, sometime that's the optimum planting time. However, if you didn't start early this year, you wound up late, because we just took that 2 weeks during the middle of May and just took that away from us because it was getting rain during that time. We never know what's going to happen or what you're going to be faced with during the season, what the farmer's going to have to deal with and contend with to plant to get the crop in and get it out. So this year he had 2 weeks of rain. Now, he needed the rain. It was very much needed. We'd went through a dry time. We needed to have that rain to ensure some good stands. Some people had to stop planting because of the lack of moisture. And then it's always good to get some rain to incorporate those chemicals to give us some residuals. So, but we certainly got two separate crops out there of peanuts this year. We're going to have some early and we're going to have a lot late. I feel like we've got a high percentage of the crop late this year because I think we were probably under 50% planted in May the 10th when we started getting that rain. That kept us out of the field till about the 22nd, 23rd of May before we could get back into the field. So we probably got 55–60% of the crop that's going to be late. Guys are still scurrying around right now trying to plant. There's a few of them that are done. We still got a lot of them trying to finish up with a few acres there right now. We were estimated probably to have, last year we had about 172,000 acres for the state. This year we were estimated around 180,000 plus, 185. So it's yet to see what's going to happen. Certainly I don't think, last year they didn't plant quite as many as what we thought we would because I think everybody was optimistic about cotton and the price and thought we'd be 90 cents and everything would be fine, and it didn't work out that way. I think most of the pools are around 82 cents, so that's certainly not enough money for where the expenses were last year. And typically on those years like that, we have a tendency to plant more peanuts. So after coming off of that and cotton at 73 cents right now, Steve, I don't think that's going to pay the bill. It's certainly tough times on the farm right now, so it's going to be interesting to see how many acres of peanuts we got. I can tell you there's a lot of them and the seed short. So guys are scurrying around continuing to try to make seed right now for some. We've had a few, seed quality overall has been pretty good. I've had a few seed complaints that I've went to. Some people's had to replant a little bit, but all in all it's been pretty decent, but we've certainly used up every bit that's been available out there for this year to plant the crop. So we'll move on here. One of the biggest things as a scout, and sometimes it's hard to keep the farmer from pumping a lot of water. As Steve mentioned earlier, some people have plenty of water. Some people don't have near enough water for irrigation. And sometimes they use up that little bit of water that they got available to them too early. The water demand for the peanuts is just like many of the other crops, like cotton, for instance, which are very similar. There's not a lot of demand there that first 30 days at all. And you got to get to about 60 days, 50 to 60 days to really start that fruiting cycle if weather's conducive there for fruiting. And so water demand doesn't really go up till about 60 days plus right there on those. So, we try to keep that in mind for the guys that are really short on water, don't have a lot available to them. Thinking about a peanut plant and how it grows, as Steve was talking about the cotton, usually you have a new set of leaves every 3 to 5 days on peanuts. And you know, a peanut plant can grow 2 foot tall and 6 feet wide and have roots 5 feet deep in the ground. So it's pretty much a scavenger crop and a robust crop that can really grow a lot of foliage. And as you think about, they'll grow those vines till about 100 days of age before they taper off and kind of stop growing a lot of vines. So as we look here at some of the issues that we come across, obviously we get some of this stuff like this where we get some burn and looks like we've about killed the plants, and right here with just kind of a situation where we had a lot of hailstorm and it just beat down those plants, pulverized them there. Here you can see some that were burned. This is from Valor early, and some people look and feel like they killed their peanuts with Valor, and they say, I don't want to use Valor, you know, it's too dangerous to me, it hurts the peanuts. But I think we've about convinced most people that the Valor will not kill them. You know, can we get in a situation where we can hurt them a little bit there early? Yes. Can we burn them? Will they come back? Yes. You can see here, you can see how that green starts putting back out on there. It's kind of just like with the paraquat early. And you know, obviously what happens in this situation is we just didn't get the rain after they had planted to incorporate that chemical into the soil. So therefore it's laying on the soil surface, and then you get a lot of splatter burn is what happens. So as we look here, you can see a little bit of this splatter burn there later on these. These are a lot older, so obviously the older the plant, the harder it is to kill it. Once a peanut plant gets that waxy layer on that leaf surface, he's hard to kill. I've told many people about the only thing tougher than a peanut's a peanut farmer. So they're pretty tough. You can see again here, this is just some of the burn here we'll move through. You can see some of these real small plants that then come on out. So one of the other biggest things as a scout, I would say, is ensuring that they got a good stand. Obviously that's the number one objective there for the farmer early, and as he's, you know, some of these guys are planting for 45, 50 days, you know, and they don't get back around to where they first started at real quick to see how the crop looks, what kind of stand they got. You know, a lot of things are happening in different places all across the area where they planted. You know, you may have spotted range, you got different soil types, things are just affected differently there. So you know, we're obviously shooting, we plant 6 seed per foot, we're shooting for 4 plants per foot. So in that situation, you know, it's easy to go out there and take a stand count, you know, measure you off 10 foot out there in the field, take some stand counts and see where they're at. You know, it may vary in certain places of the field. You may have a clay spot right there that may be weak, or you may have some sandy spots that look really good in the field. So, you know, we can quickly decide if we got a seed issue or if we just got some issues there with the moisture and the timing there of emergence. So, but number one, let's make sure we got a good stand, and, you know, we're shooting for 4 plants. I'm not going to say 3 plants wouldn't be sufficient. Our reason in having 4 plants is to help dodge getting tomato spotted wilt virus. If we had 3 plants and we didn't have virus, we still have plenty there to make an optimum yield. So you can see here some of these gapped up peanuts, and this puts us prone to those gaps in those rows for thrips to be attracted and to get tomato spotted wilt virus. So you can see the yellow one of these plants, and I'll show you the yellow one just because I know Scott, he'll talk about the virus and that, but I just kind of want you to see the color, know what you're looking at right there as we talk about that yellow tint to the field, and look at that virus and know the differences between things when you see them. Just like when you see this spot here, you say, well, I kind of thought that was a big virus hit. You know, well, maybe looking from the window, truck window, scouting it, riding by, yeah, it might be virus right there. But as you pull it up and look closer at it, that's potassium deficiency. A lot of times, you know, we don't really see nutrient deficiencies with peanuts because, you know, like I mentioned, they're scavenger crops. They have roots really deep in the ground. They can mine those nutrients down deep that other crops can't, and that allows them to use a lot of that residual fertilizer there. However, we can still run into issues just like this because a lot of farmers have that mindset, well, they don't need anything. They're scavengers, they can get by without it. We still need to keep up those soil test recommendations and follow those as a guide, because if you continue to treat the other crops skimping by on them, that peanut crop's going to fall short. If you fertilizing a cotton crop or a corn crop heavy, yeah, there's probably is enough there for the peanuts they're following. But sooner or later, something's going to have to be put out there, to be able to maintain that. If we're making good peanuts and we're removing hay, we're removing nutrients, okay? So a lot of times when you're in the field and you see some weaker areas out there like this right here, most times that I deal with is a pH issue. pH most of the times will be low to cause the issue out there. That's usually when you have a died out stand, because what happens when you have a low pH is the metals become more available. And when you've got heavy metals in the soil, that's death on peanuts. It's just like cold steel cultivator. If that cold steel gets over there on that row, it'll kill them. You can plow them up that way. So heavy metals are heavy on peanuts. That's death. That becomes more of an issue in a low pH. Okay. Some more of the yellowing that we may see just like this. We saw some earlier with the manganese, but looking at the distance, it's kind of hard to tell. There might be a bright yellow like this, or it might be the duller yellow like this. So like I said, it's kind of hard to tell from the truck window, so you kind of got to get out there in it and look a little bit closer. But when you see that interveinal chlorosis like that, it's manganese. Manganese happens when we get those high pHs. So when the pH gets up there 6.7, 6.8, manganese comes out of solution. Okay, and then it turns those leaves yellow like that. We can clear that up pretty easy with manganese sulfate. But usually it's small areas of the field. Typically those clay spots where you get a lot more of the lime right there, and it's bound to that, gets a higher pH. Very seldom I go to a place and it's the whole field. Sometimes it may be a sandy field. It's easy to change the pH in sand. So, smaller amounts of lime can change the pH in a sand field. So sometimes they may go ahead and put a little bit extra out there, and it gets that pH a little too high. Okay. So here's another little shot of yellow, and this is something else. Certainly looks more distinct right here in this spot, but if you were standing off either side from it, it'd be kind of hard to tell. You say, well, man, maybe that's manganese, or is it that potassium deficiency? But then when you can find something like that line that was across there in between them, or typically it's just an individual row, it's an inoculation problem. So right here you're looking at those nodules on the roots, and anytime you're out there in the field and you may see a little bit of yellowing out there, and you want to look at those nodules and examine them and slice those open, and just if you see that reddish tint right there, you'll know that it's working. It's fixing nitrogen. Calcium is one of the most important nutrients in peanuts. We've obviously got to have those for solid peanuts. This also helps increase germination on the following crop for like a seed crop that's saved there for the next year to be replanted. We try to encourage the guys to take some pickings on samples there early season to see what those calcium levels are. If they were marginal and the guys put out lime, just keep in mind it's not going to change that pH very quickly. That's going to happen all through the season. So as they get rain throughout the season and it breaks down, it's going to slowly change that pH throughout the season. Gypsum is something that's very water soluble, really changes the calcium level very quickly. Boron is one of our other important micronutrients that we apply as a foliar spray as we're spraying for our diseases during the growing season. We apply the boron to prevent hollow heart. As you can see, some of the damage there, what we call hollow heart. And also another sign of the lack of boron is you'll see these limbs, you'll see this lateral splitting of the limbs to know that they're low on boron. And another symptom, sometimes also we have these yellow flowers. You know, there's new yellow flowers every day on a peanut plant. You don't see the same flower like you do in cotton. It's a new yellow flower every day that goes on to form a pin and a pod. But if you see the lack of those, sometimes too, that is a lack of boron when they're not fruiting like that. So just keep that in mind when you're out there in the field and scouting these peanuts during the season. You know, sometimes we see something else that's yellow just like this. We run into this a lot. We got a lot of big equipment to cover the acres, and the guys got these big sprayers. Sometimes it's hard to get them cleaned out, or sometimes it can be simple just from spraying something else with a regular 18-row tractor sprayer. But this is just a contamination issue. This is glyphosate, a little bit of carryover in the tank that went out over the peanuts. So, you know, but just be mindful of those things when you're looking. You know, try to look for some differences out there and something that's stands out to you, and feel free to call any of us on the peanut team, and we'll certainly be able to help you there, get through it if you don't know what it is. But appreciate being here with y'all, appreciate y'all's time. And